I'm going to teach you how quantum computers work in under a minute. Buckle up. So a regular non-quantum computer speaks using the language 1 or 0. That's it. And then all a computer program is just a chain of commands telling the computer what to do based on the previous value. So if this value equals 1, output 0, 1. If that value equals 0, 1, output 0, and so on. Now the problem is if you wanted to check all the outputs of this program, you'd have to go down line by line because you only check 0 or 1. So you'd have to check the value if it's 1, then go down this tree, then check it if it's 0, and go down all of these trees and go down each and every single possible line, and it takes ages. Now actual computer programs are actually trillions of lines of commands long, so even with a really powerful computer, to compute each and every single one of these outcomes will take a really long time. Now with quantum computers, bits don't have to be 0 or 1, they are 0 and 1 at the same time, and it checks the solution for both 0 and 1 simultaneously. This means instead of having to go down the path of each individual solution, it could kind of just sweep down the whole array of solutions and just instantly output all of them. It's not even comparable how much faster. Now that was a huge oversimplification, but that is more or less how they work, and we haven't fully figured out how to build these things yet, so they're not as powerful as they may sound. And like the way you write code for them is totally different than a normal computer, so it's not just like drag and drop and it runs way faster. But if you want to learn more about these things, specifically why we have to submerge them in the coldest temperatures known in the universe for them to even remotely work, let me know in the comments, and I'll make another video on this. I hope you learned something today. Toss me a follow for more cool tech stuff, and I'll catch you in the next video. So this is the brand new MacBook Air M4, and with all the new updates, the performance per dollar you're getting on this thing is absolutely unmatched by anything else on the market. In this video, we're going to talk about who this thing is for, whether or not it's worth you getting it for the type of things you're doing on it, and if it's worth upgrading from a previous generation MacBook. First, to catch up with what's new on the M4, first we got a new color, sky blue. It's more of a steel gray. It got the center stage webcam, which will follow you around the room as well as do desk view like this. And then we have the three big changes. First, it got the M4 processor. This is basically really fast in both graphics and regular processing power, and it has insanely long battery life. More on this in a second. 2, it now natively supports 2 external monitors without any adapters or dongles needed. 3, the big one, it got a price drop. This is now $9.99 in the US and $1,400 in Canada. So who should buy this? Pretty much everybody. Obviously, if you need a Windows laptop, you're gaming or you're doing something application specific, this is out for that, but anybody else should be considering this thing. Previously, the MacBook Air has always kind of been the slower, more like student simple laptop in the lineup, but that's not the case anymore. Now that the base model of these have 16 gigs of RAM, the M4 chip being so far ahead of the game in anything you could ever need, this is still going to be the best buy for you, even if you're doing photo editing, video editing, all that sort of stuff. For context, I've been using an M2 MacBook Air, and my daily job is literally editing videos, and I've been more than happy with it, and yet this thing is still miles faster than that. The gap between the Airs and the Pros is so small now that with the price considered, the Airs are what pretty much everybody should get. The only time I could recommend not getting the base model Air and something higher is A, if you're doing prolonged work, so if you're doing rendering for like multiple hours a day opposed to just rendering the odd video like I am, or if you're doing really complex VFX work, that sort of stuff. But if you're doing that, you probably know what type of laptop you get and you're not even watching this video. Basically, if you're doing pretty much anything, even if you're doing it professionally, but not like crazy extensively, Lightroom, video editing, rendering, this thing's probably gonna do the trick for you. Again, it's what I'm using, and I've been more than happy with my previous generation. Now, should you upgrade from an older MacBook, this is where things get interesting. So this is the first generation where I would recommend upgrading if you have the M1. So the M1, the first generation M processor in the Macs, has always been really good and better than all the older Intel ones, but the jump is finally far enough from the M1 to the M4 that I recommend upgrading to it. The base model M4 also has 16 gigs of RAM over the default 8 on the M2. That's why I upgraded. So if you have the M1 or the M2, it's worth considering upgrading just for the lower price and how much more performance you're getting. And then if you have any Intel Mac at all, I don't even care if it's a max spec Intel Mac from 2020, this thing will outperform it by a mile. I'll be testing this thing a little bit more extensively, but I hope that kind of helped you guys decide whether or not this is for you, because it probably is. If you have any further questions, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.